Good evening. Welcome to the Private Property Farming Podcast. My name is Mbali Nwoko, your host for the Farming Podcast, which is every Tuesdays and Thursday at 8 o'clock on all your social media channels. And that's Facebook, YouTube, Instagram as well. Thank you so much for supporting the Farming Podcast and for continuing to support all our private property podcasts. We have you during the week as well as on weekends. And I'm sure you must be having a joy with all the guests that we've been bringing back to back every single week, as well as the weekend. Today, we have a phenomenal guest. She's a woman in the agri space. And our title this evening is The Rise of Women in Agriculture. It is Women's Month after all, and we're still celebrating and we'll take full advantage of this month as women. So we'll get to speak about her organization or the institution and what they do in the agri space, and more so the impact that they've had in the agricultural sector, specifically where women are concerned. And we get to know her journey as well, because she is an executive director, and how she got to the top and how it's like being at the top in the decision-making space, impacting through her work in the agriculture sector. Please continue to like, share, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow all our social media channels or pages rather, to keep abreast of all the different guests that we bring you every single week. And again, please feel free to ask questions to our guest. We love engaging and interacting with you at home. So without further ado, let's introduce Zama Shongwe, who is the Executive Director at Buhle Academy. Zama, how are you doing? And thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Good evening, Mbali, and everybody who's joining us this evening. So we're glad to be here.
Awesome. We were also very excited to have you onto the show. I always keep referring people to Buhle Academy when they ask me, where can I get short courses on agriculture, in the rather Johannesburg region, so I'm glad you're finally onto the show. Maybe just to tell us a bit more about your institution. So if you can kindly explain to us what Buhle Academy does.
Buhle is a training academy, as you said, and we train in agriculture, different aspects of agriculture. But most importantly, we specifically train people to go into the field as entrepreneurs, which is slightly different to somebody who's training to have a degree or diploma in agriculture and then go to work somewhere else. So we are training people to start their own businesses. It's very different, and therefore the results that we're expecting at the end are somewhat different. We have various courses, livestock, vegetable production, poultry production, and grain crop production are our main courses. And then we have a host of shorter courses that people can go through to just develop shorter skills. Our courses are accredited, and when we take people through farming, we look at it from before you start farming to when your business is running. So that means if you are going to be a vegetable farmer, for instance, we look at what, from pre the start, soil health and soil testing and that kind of thing. And then we look at the very end, not when you harvest, but when you actually have a market. It's wide, and therefore it means that we start with people, and then when they finish and they've graduated from people, we continue to support them. And that support can take various forms. We will introduce you to networks within various areas across the country where Buhle has networks. We will introduce you to funders. We will help you even create a business plan if you're looking to go into the open market for your funding. And basically also just offer support to farmers that otherwise you would not know where to go. Sometimes your problem is, I keep growing stuff and it keeps dying, and I don't know why, and you're just about to give up, and somebody can come in and just give you a little bit of advice and turn that thing around for you. We focus a lot on the business side of farming as well, which means, am I farming profitably? Is this business that I'm setting up sustainable? So we have a lot of focus on the business plan, the production plans, financial management side of things. And even with our funders, that's one of the drawcards to, they will be able to follow a farmer and know whether the farmer is making a profit or not long term.
Right. So the courses at Buhle Academy, are they all physical courses? Like you have to physically be there, to learn about crop, animal, grain production?
What better way, though? What is a better way to learn about farming except to get your hands all mucky and dirty and fall up in the dirt? All of our long courses, you have to be at the farm to train. We do have special courses where we would go out to farms and train them there, but those are very few. We invite people to come there because we've got also all the resources and all the things and the equipment to make the farming easier. And you're also able to learn and fail on our land because you're doing actual farming. So if for instance you're doing poultry production, you've got chicks, you're up every hour on the hour, checking on the chicks to make sure that they don't die in the first few days. If there's been a hailstorm in our area, which is in Zama and Himalaya, or we suffer from frost, then you get to see what rehabilitative methods we go through to bring the plants back, in any other kind of diseases. So you get to learn, you get to fail, you get to have, and also camaraderie. You have other people who are also learning in that space. And so when you go home, you have a network that's been created, and we try and encourage the farmers to keep that network in place long term.
Right.
So it's better that you come through and learn from there.
That's fantastic. And how has the COVID era impacted or affected your business? I mean, this is farming, right? We can't farm on our laptops sitting at home via Zoom calls. We have to physically farm on the ground, in the soil, testing the water, being out in the nature and feeding the different temperatures and so forth. Now, how has the global pandemic affected your ability to operate as an institution?
So it's affected us like any other institution where students come on board. We've had two long-term closures. Like obviously, the first one being March last year, and the recent one that we had this year, and that meant we couldn't have students on board. However, what has happened in agriculture is that more people have become interested in farming during this time. They're at home. They have back gardens that they otherwise, like unused or flowers. And they suddenly realize how important, the quality of the food is to health. And therefore, we've had a lot more people come out and be interested in farming. And we've also changed the way that we purchase things as a country, and we've had a lot more of our farmers saying that during lockdown, they switch because obviously the market and people are not coming out. They switch and they use platforms such as apps and WhatsApp and social media, and they sell their product there and deliver. So on the one hand, in terms of the actual academic operations, we had to shut down. But on the other hand, in terms of farming, our farmers have seen that they have to expand the new ways of doing things, the new norms that are now the new norms. Yeah.
Yeah. Zama, I know you've got a wealth of information to share this evening, and I really, really want the audience to capture every single word that you're saying. I'm going to ask us to go on a little ad break because we are having trouble hearing you on our end. Just the volume is a bit low. So we're just going to go for a little bit of an ad break, not longer than a minute. And we will just be back whilst we get Zamo to just tweak her audio a little bit. So just bear with us and we'll be back with you shortly. And we're back. Thank you so much for your patience. We just had to fix some technical issues that we've had in the back end. But trust me, Zama Shongwe is still here, and she's the executive director of Buhle Academy. So for the first half of the show, for the past few minutes, she's been explaining the role or what Buhle Academy is about as an institution, and the various courses that they have. And obviously, emphasizing that it's a training academy. It's a farming or agri-training academy. Therefore, you have to train in physical presence. You can't learn about farming on your laptop or on Zoom call. There must come an element where you have to do the work practically on the ground. So just to move on with the show this evening and not waste too much time, Zama, I just want to find out, for anyone that's watching tonight and is maybe Googling Buhle Academy, and they find that you are based in Dalmas, is that correct? And maybe someone is based in the Free State. So does that mean that they will have to physically travel to Dalmas for the duration of the course, complete the course, and then go back home? Or do you have various sites in each and every province where students or potential students can enroll?
They would have to travel. We have accommodation for students, and we can accommodate about 100 students at a time. And we've just staggered the enrollment in the times of COVID so that we do not fill it up fully during this time. But basically, they would have to travel. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So now let's get into the topic of tonight, right? The role of women in agriculture. And with your tenure, having been within the Buhle Academy, have you seen a lot of interest from women entrepreneurs or women farmers or female students that have wanted to learn agriculture? Or is it year on year, the numbers, are they declining? Or are you seeing a lot of increase in women wanting to participate in the agri sector? What has it been like within the Buhle Training Academy?
So women have always had an interest in agriculture. It's only natural because they are the people that feed us in homes. And the nurturing part of it. So there's always been an interest in agriculture. The difference is that when it comes to being a profession, women usually do it as a way of just feeding the family and maybe even as a hobby and not necessarily a business. So we've seen a rise in Buhle. Over the years, that the number of women that have been training has increased. And last year, 42% of the students that graduated last year were actually women across our courses. This is huge. This is probably the highest numbers we've had in a very long time. And this is also because they are now understanding that there's so many different avenues within farming. It's not a single thing. You do not have to become a primary producer. There's, other things, logistics and processing and other things that you can do. You can become a soil scientist, etc. And those who choose to be primary producers are the ones that start with the Buhle, can also see a career path. They can see that I can start off with this much land or this many chickens or this many animals and, make the business grow. I am going to be supported when I do this. And I'm going to be recognized as a professional farmer, a full-time farmer, and somebody who's actually in business and farming. So this is a long-term thing that I can see myself doing. And we try to help women and basically all farmers by removing some of the barriers to getting into the farming space. Firstly, it's the skill. So obviously, when you've trained and you're skilled, you feel more confident about the work that you're going to go out there and do. With improved knowledge as well. Then we're looking at support afterwards. And when people have gone out and they're saying, I can't find markets, I've got an issue with land and the issue with finances as well. And then we help them to navigate that state. We do not necessarily have all the solutions up front, but we navigate per individual person's needs, and therefore the solutions will be very clearly marked for you and your farm and your environment, which is not a blanket solution. So when they go back to their home environment, our farmer support officers will go out and check out the space and give some advice and help them grow. And we continue growing with them for a number of years. It's not a once-off way of doing things. We don't come in and after a year we've dropped the farmers. And our funders have become valuable in understanding that in farming, it needs to be longer term. So we travel for 3 years, minimum with farmers, and some of them we've had them in our books for 10 years as they, add in, they diversify, they add in new ways, they expanding. So you would continue to hold their hands for 10 years as they do new things and become professional farmers.
Wow. What I love about Buhle Academy is that you not only take the theoretical aspect of it, but obviously practical, but also infusing it with business skills, because I think people tend to forget that farming is a business at the end of the day. You have operations, marketing, logistics, finance, human resources. And as a farmer, you have to manage all of these, especially if you're starting a farming enterprise with minimal resources and you're not outsourcing all of these functions, but keeping it in-house. And I think that's fantastic. And as you were talking, I wanted to know that, does Buhle Academy have an alumni portfolio within the academy, so that when farmers leave, is there some sort of extended support to assist them, just maybe finding market or maybe relationships that the academy might have built. And also, as you were talking, you mentioned that you have funders that are part of Buhle Academy. So as a farmer as well, I could go to, I suppose, as an individual, I can enroll at Buhle Academy maybe to upskill my knowledge in the agri space. But also, do you find that organizations then would send communities that they support, whether it's predominantly women or youth, to Buhle Academy to upskill them?
Yeah, we're actually having a lot of those at the moment. We did a project last year, and you were just talking about how you can't learn farming from a computer. In the age of lockdown last year, we piloted online learning, and it's basically virtual. The facilitator sat in Zama and in Buhle, which is deep in the Eastern Cape. We had a group of farmers, mostly women actually, and of all ages. One of them was 58, learning how to farm. And we're basically doing it through the screen. You'd hold up your seedlings, you'd show the tray that you've grown, you'd bring implements, you'd demonstrate. And it was actually our first accredited course that was translated into Xhosa. So that was our first African language course. And aside from that, our courses are in many languages, but this was the first accredited Xhosa course. So we adapt to the situations, but we also show farmers how you can, because farming is a lot about resilience. You need to tough it out, season to season. Things will change, and you need to be prepared for that change. So a lot of the stuff that you would learn at Buhle is how to be resilient and how to find solutions when the going gets tough, because the going is going to get tough. You are farming in Africa, environment can be harsh. It's drought, then it's flood. And then you've got the general problems that we spoke about before, the market, the funding, and then the key one in this country is also the land. So how do you manage to run a business, to establish first a business, and then keep it running with all of these challenges in place? And what we do is that we come in and we help you to resolve. So if your issues are around water, access to water, then we look at your particular issues and we say, okay, these are the issues that have come up here. We help you to develop your own plan. We say to people, you need to develop. We can only support. You need to develop, because we want to, at any given point, when Buhle withdraws, maybe funding issue, whatever it is, and is no longer there to hold your hand, because it's a self-developed plan, then you will know how that plan was developed and how to keep it going. So these are lifelong lessons that we are teaching. Yeah.
Zama, give us an insight to what you do on a day-to-day basis and how you're making strides as a woman in the agri sector. How has your journey been? Have you been in the agri sector for many years? Maybe taken up many other senior positions within agri businesses, not necessarily Buhle, or is this your first agribusiness portfolio? But maybe just take us a bit of more insight into your day-to-day responsibilities, and how has your journey been as a woman in the agri space?
Well, it could only be a journey that is of any woman who's in any executive space. It's not all joyful, but there are moments when you think I would be in no other space. My journey is actually my particular interest is in the development space, so not necessarily in agriculture. So I started off working in various NGOs in the education space. But this mirrors something that I hold quite dearly. I'm interested in what we put in our bodies and how we nurture ourselves, and therefore it marries my interest in education with my interest in food. We have a fairly small team that we work with. It's 30 people. It's not a huge institution by any means, and our intake is 500 learners annually. So it's hard-working team to 30 people to ensure that 500 people complete qualifications every year. And most of the work that I do is, a large part of what I do is managing donors and incoming funds. And even that team is even smaller. We work with a team of 2 internal, and there's one person who's external who helps us fundraise.
Yeah, and as a woman in the sector as well, from an education space, but still in agri, what are some of the messages or advices you would give for women entrepreneurs or women farmers entering the space, based on the students that you've taken on, and maybe those that have graduated? So, what are some of the weaknesses that we have, or strengths that we can capitalize on? Just to maybe make our farms more successful.
I sat in a conversation earlier today when somebody was asking me something similar. And my response is, we no longer have the luxury of being invisible as women. We need to actually speak up. We no longer have, and I'm using the word luxury here in case of whatever we think are the reasons that we cannot express ourselves and cannot venture into the agricultural field, any space that we think women are in the minority. And so don't be invisible. If you're going to go into farming, be loud, express yourself, walk into those spaces, especially when you're dealing with markets. Walk into the spaces with confidence, and do the research when you're going to think about what you want to farm. But don't spend so much time on research that it becomes debilitating and you're scared to take off. So launch yourself when you're ready. Find like-minded people. I have women reaching out to me all the time, and being able to help them with ideas, being just sounding boards, and also new things. So you do not have to be farming the old style. We're talking about technology now. People are developing apps. A lot of women are developing apps. A lot of women have gone into online trading platforms, online purchasing platforms. So you buy your groceries and your vegetables specifically online. And I know quite a few women who've just gone into that particular space. A lot of women are becoming market agents. And are tackling agriculture from that point. So there's a lot of us in the space, and by speaking out, by reaching out to other women, by talking about our needs and sharing knowledge, but also sharing the pain of sometimes being the only woman in the room, and sometimes being the only woman in the room where people are speaking Afrikaans and you don't necessarily understand the language. And then we get to, lean on each other and help each other to grow.
Wow, thank you so much for your time this evening, Zamo. I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation, even though we had a little bit of a technical difficulty. But it's just great to always speak to someone in the agri space, more so a woman at senior level, because I think just from a farmer's level, we definitely need more executive decision making. Primarily from females, within the agri sector. And I think what stood out for me, and with what Buhle Academy is doing, is that it's not only just taking the practical part of farming, but it's teaching people to farm from a business element. Also just trying their best to assist people once they've graduated or finished their courses, etc., over and above the courses being accredited. Because, when you're out on the farm at the end of the day, it does get a bit lonely. You do miss maybe the cohorts that you were training with. And I like that advice that you mentioned, that surround yourself with like-minded people, who understand your journey, who understand where you want to go, and maybe who understand the market as well, that could help you navigate, how to make your farm a success. But thank you so much for your time this evening. Before I let you go, where can people find more information about Buhle Academy? And when do people start applying for courses? Are the courses throughout the year? Or, does one have to apply in November and December to be taken for the following year?
So you're most welcome to go to the website. It's buhle.org.za. That's our website. Applications are online, so you don't need there's no paper to fill in. And we're taking applications throughout the year. You can choose our course. Our courses are, repeated. So the first semester courses are repeated in the second half of the year. And currently this week, the vegetable production course started. But you can go online and look at the various courses, because, like I said, we've got long courses, but we also have short courses. And those short courses can be more appealing to people who actually work and want to take a week out to learn introduction to a particular course and then go back and implement that.
Right. Thank you so much. I won't keep you much longer on the podcast, but thank you so much, and for giving us that valuable information. Otherwise, that's it from me. And yeah, I hope maybe once again you could join us. Maybe let's see a practical day at the academy one day, just to see how the students get down to training live at the Buhle Academy. But thanks so much, Zamo, for gracing us with your presence this evening.
Thanks, Mbali. Come get your hands dirty.
Absolutely. That was Zama Shongwe, the Executive Director of Buhle Academy. And she spoke about the institution, what it is they do, the various courses that they have, short-term, long-term, open to male, female, young or old, anybody can come through. And also you could join the Buhle Academy, even if it's via an institution. But I think what's most important is that, they provide agricultural training in all the type of commodities, whether you want to do horticulture, livestock, poultry farming. But, what's important is that it's about getting your hands dirty, feeling the soil, touching the animals, because that's what farming is about at the end of the day. You deal with live or living things, plants or animals for that matter. And so if you have any desire to do some courses, upskill your knowledge on the agri sector or on your farm, I think Buhle Academy is one place to go to. Their website is buhle.org. So have a look at the various courses, and we'll put the link on the show notes on YouTube after this live podcast. But thank you so much for joining us. I wish you a fantastic Friday tomorrow and a lovely weekend ahead. And yeah, you'll catch me next week Tuesday at 8 p.m. Thank you so much. Take care.